What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tide Talk Live. Jake will be joining me here in just a few minutes. He's running behind, but wanted to go ahead and get started. But he will be here in just a few minutes. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be talking about Alabama schedule, as you can see from the title of this episode here in 2025. We'll dive into each opponent, what we think the Alabama's record might be, and if they can reach the college football playoff. Um, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about whatever the live chat has going on. We'll try to discuss that as well. So we appreciate all that has joined us so far. We see Tay-Tax joined us. Of course, Trina has joined us. She's actually a member of our channel. And if you're not a member of our channel, we would appreciate you sign up for membership there. There's 3 different levels, and you can check that out if you're interested as well. But please like, share, and subscribe. We are powered by the Believe Network, so we're free and available wherever you find your podcast as well. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, just wherever you find your podcast, you can find Tide Talk Live, powered by the Believe Network. But with all that said, we'll get our intro rolling, and we'll start diving into the show as we wait on Jake to get here. All right, guys, welcome into the show. Stacey Blackwood here once again. Jake will be joining us here in just a few minutes, and we'll wait for him to get here. I want to give a shout out real quick to Trina, who is joining us from over 3,000 miles away in Canada. We appreciate her support. She is probably our biggest fan, and we appreciate that very much. So thank you, Trina. And if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Like I told you in the intro, we'll be talking about the schedule here in just a few minutes as we wait on Jake to get here. If there's anything that the chat wants to talk about real quick before Jake does get here, go ahead and let us know, and we'll be glad to discuss that. Please do help us grow our channel. We're growing. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers, so help us reach that goal. As you can see above me, we're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us there as well. And actually, one of our latest TikTok uploads had close to 30,000 views the last time I looked at it. So appreciate all the support that we have there as well. Big show talking about the schedule today. Before we do that, and before Jake gets on, talk a little recruiting. Big recruiting weekend going on. We talked about last weekend's recruiting weekend and all the guys that were on campus. There's 3 5-stars on campus this weekend as well, along with 3 commitments that Alabama already has in this class. And, there's a potential for more commitments coming up this week. But really the month of June, really till the end of the June and into July, it's really all about official visits. Alabama coaches are trying to get these kids on campus and, rolling out the red carpet for them and trying to show them guys a good time and see who they can end up with a part of this 2026 class. But so far, so good. They sit inside the top 10, and I'm willing to bet they're inside the top 5, maybe in the top 3, top 2 when this cycle is completely over with and we reach, February, and both the signing day in December and the late signing period is all wrapped up. So don't fret about the 5 commitments right now. More commitments will be coming soon, especially as the month of June continues, official visits continue, and then really the beginning of July, those first couple of weeks of July is going to be full of commitments, and there's several guys to be watching. And we talk about the 3 in-state kids a lot with Xavier Caldwell, Tank Jones, and CD or Sadarian Morgan. Those 3 guys, Alabama is in really good shape with, and I feel comfortable with where they're at. And it looks like Jake is about ready to join us, so we're going to try to get him in here real quick, and we'll get our show rolling. There he is.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
What is up, buddy?
Sorry I'm late. It's trying to get a toddler and a wife out the door. It's fun stuff.
No doubt, no doubt. Good to have you here, buddy. It's been a while since we've been able to get together.
Yeah.
Schedules conflict when you have kids, and kids keep you busy. Ben, good to
Yeah.
have you here. What's up, buddy?
Ben,
Appreciate
Trina.
appreciate. I didn't give a shout out to everybody who's been in the live chat so far,
Okay.
Jake. And I talked a little bit recruiting before you joined as well, about all the official visits that are going on right now and the rest of this month, and how Tide fans can, you could have a commitment here or two throughout the month of June during the official visits. But really, as June wraps up and in July, that's when you're going to start seeing a bunch of commit. I would say by the end of July, Alabama's class is almost going to be done. I mean, I think by the end of July, you could see 18 to 20 commits so far. So that's just kind of what I'm expecting. Plenty of time to discuss that moving forward. But today's show, we're going to be talking about the 2025 schedule, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a I don't want to say brutal. It's not the most difficult schedule in the country, but it's by far not the easiest either. I think most, strength of schedule makers are putting us around the 10 to 15th ranked strength of schedule in the country, which is probably about fair. But I guess, Jake, before we talk about each individual team, when you first take a glance at the schedule, what is the game that sticks out the most to you?
It's the Georgia game, obviously, because both teams are going to be bringing in new quarterbacks. We kind of seen flashes of what Ty Simpson can do. Gunnar Stockton, he looked really good in the SEC championship game a little bit last year for them, and in the bowl game for him when he had to come in and play. So, they kind of know what they're getting with him. But honestly, outside of just a few plays, neither one of these quarterbacks have seen, the SEC top speed from defenses yet. So how is that going to play out in this game? Both sides are going to have, a great core of players. Georgia and Alabama both going to have great defenses, got great wide receiver rooms. Both teams going to have filled really good running back rooms. So it's all going to come down to how the offense and defensive line plays for both sides and how the quarterback play is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to last year's Georgia game, especially when you look at the first half, it was all about the quarterback play. Jalen
Right.
Milroe looked unstoppable, looked like the best player in college football, and Alabama picked off Carson Beck a couple times there. So
Right.
it was really about the quarterback play, especially in that first half. And that second half was just so weird. It's hard to really take anything from that. But yeah, I mean, obviously the Georgia game sticks out. I think you look at the two Power Four non-conference matchups against Florida State and Wisconsin. That's obviously kind of eye-opening. You have the rematch against Vanderbilt, the rematch against
Yep.
Oklahoma, a good South Carolina team, a good LSU team. So there's plenty of really interesting matchups there in the schedule, and I think just 84 days, Jake, from kickoff. That means 12
Right.
Saturdays from right now, here in just a couple hours, 12 weeks and 2 hours. Alabama's going to
Yeah.
be kicking off against Florida State in
Wow.
Tallahassee.
Yeah.
That is hard to believe. So the summer is rolling on through, and this schedule is really interesting. And we've talked a while ago about you know trying to give our toughest matchups
Mm-hmm.
of this schedule, and it's so hard because each matchup has a little different storyline.
Right.
And you could go, well, obviously Georgia is probably the most talented roster of the teams they're playing, and teams like LSU as well. But then you have to think about, well, Oklahoma kind of had Alabama's number last year. Then they bring in John Mateer, which is an obvious upgrade at
Yep.
quarterback. Their receiver room is going to be is healthy. You know their defense is going to be good. So
They brought a
you,
really good running back in too, and Ott.
yes, yeah, Jordan Ott from
Yeah.
California. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to be an easy game.
Nope.
You got to go to South Carolina and play Lenore Sellers, who's going to be one of
Mm.
the better quarterbacks in the country.
Yep.
I mean, so there's so many different ways you could look at this. You got to go to Auburn, Jake,
Yeah.
and say what you will about Auburn, it's never easy to play in Jordan
No,
Hare Stadium.
it's not.
It's the last two times Alabama's played there, they've come away with victories, but it has been by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, you're right. And this schedule, it's like you said, it's not the worst, but it's there is some trap games to me, like sandwiched, you know, after Georgia we got Vandy, which I know that in circle for a lot of Alabama fans, but I don't know exactly what Missouri is going to have this year, but we got to go to Columbia. That could be a trap game, especially with Tennessee coming up.
Right.
A few the week after that, and that's another game that I'm sure Alabama
Yeah,
fans are going to have circled.
exactly.
So,
That's why it's so hard to pick. And Trina makes a great point, and that's kind of where I was
yeah,
going to. She kind of beat me to the punch. Is it seemed like last year there was some underestimating going on from
yeah,
the team.
Yep.
They overlooked Vanderbilt. They were not ready for that game.
No.
They were not ready for the Oklahoma game with a trip to the college football playoff on the line. So you can't show up and just think you're going to win. So avoiding those trap games, underestimating your opponents, that's kind of the point we're kind of getting to here because there's no you get Eastern Illinois the week before you play Auburn. But
Yep.
other than that, Jake, there's not an opponent on this schedule who doesn't have the ability to beat you if you don't show up.
Right. Yeah.
So you
Exactly
better show up and play. I mean, and Jekyll and Hyde was a great like Ben
Oh,
puts there
gosh.
in the comment section. That's exactly what this team was and last season. So hopefully they've kind of learned their lesson. Hopefully this coaching staff is and you've heard throughout this offseason how focused this team is. And of course, it's one thing to talk it; you got to show it on the field. But
Right.
if they recognize what they done last year didn't work, as far as being prepared each and every week, hopefully they learn their lesson and be better prepared for the 2026 season.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. It's I can't believe it's almost. I mean, like you said, it's almost here. It's we still got a little ways to go, but we got plenty to talk about. But man, I'm excited for the season. Just like you said, a lot of the talk, but you're starting to see how this team is starting to gel together. And honestly, not trying to sound like a homer here, but we bring back a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So this team has a chance to be special if the pieces fall in place.
All right, so let's just start looking at the schedule, Jake. Week 1 in Tallahassee against Florida State. Of course, Florida State's coming off a rough season last year following their disappointing end to the previous season where they didn't make the college football playoff. But, man, I think they're better than what their record was last year.
Yeah.
They bring in Thomas Costello, the quarterback from Boston College, along with Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator. And I think you're going to see, maybe not a full Nick Marshall style offense that he ran with in Auburn when Gus Malzahn was the head coach. But what do you think about this matchup, Jake, against the Seminoles?
It's going to be a good wake up call to see what kind of team Auburn brings out the first week of the season. And I expect, first couple of drives probably kind of sloppy trying to get their feet under them and everything. But talent wise, Alabama is a far superior team, and I expect by the second half that experience takes over. Now I know Gus Malzahn knows this Alabama team, kind of, sort of. He had kind of Saban's number when he was there at Auburn, so he knows their tendencies. It may be a little bit different, but he knows how to game plan for Alabama. So I'm expecting probably close in the first half, but second half Alabama should take over and dominate.
Yeah, I feel like Alabama's the better team, obviously, but playing, man, it's going to be hot and humid on that day.
Yeah.
I mean, why they decided to play that game at 2:30 in the afternoon on
Yeah.
August 30th in Tallahassee, Florida, is beyond me. But they better get some two-a-days in before kickoff against Florida State to get ready for that heat. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think Florida State's going to be better than they were last year, but I think
Yeah.
Alabama's going to be better than they were last year too.
Mhm.
So I do think that it could be one of those games where it's a little slow or methodical to begin with,
Mhm.
and then you see this team kind of start to click and find its groove, and like you mentioned, kind of that talent taking over, and maybe play better in the second half and pull away from the Seminoles. Then you got ULM the next week in Tuscaloosa, a 6:45 kickoff there for the home opener for Alabama. Alabama should take care of business there against what is ULM, the Warhawks or something like
Yeah.
that?
I'm just glad it's not South Florida, honestly.
Hey, no kidding. I don't ever want to play them again.
Me either. I do not want to see them again in my lifetime.
So got ULM. Alabama should take care of business there.
Yeah.
And then you welcome in Wisconsin, Jake.
Yeah.
A rematch of last year where Alabama really just dominated the Badgers in Madison, Wisconsin. It's 11 a.m. kickoff for Alabama there in Tuscaloosa against the Badgers. I think Wisconsin is a weird team.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know what to make of them, to be honest with you. We're not Big Ten guys, so we don't know the ins and outs of each program. But, historically speaking, Wisconsin is a good program.
Yep.
And I think Alabama beat them last year. I think they gave Wisconsin their worst defeat of the season.
Yeah.
In terms of margin of victory. So I think Wisconsin will probably show up with a little bit of an edge, but I'm not sure they have what it takes to beat Alabama if Alabama's playing, at their best ability. So I think Alabama gets the win there as well. gets that winning streak going to start the year before that first bye week, and then they head in to play the Georgia Bulldogs. Anything you want to mention in terms of the Wisconsin matchup?
Yeah, it's last year that first drive, Tyler Van Dyke or something like that got
Yeah.
hurt for Wisconsin. And that kind of really changed the complexion of that game. But a lot of people have said, well, who knows what would happen if you play the full game. Again, talent wise, I think would have taken over in that game. And you talking about how weird that Wisconsin, kind of season kind of was. They had Oregon, pretty much beat.
Yeah.
They could just get a stop. So they have had some highs and have had some lows, but in this game here, I think they're going to be a better team this year. But again, Alabama's going to be better as well. And I really think, again, you'll see that prowess in the second half take over.
Yeah, and I think Van Dyke transferred
Yeah, I
to
think so.
SMU, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who their quarterback's going to be. I'm pretty sure they brought in a transfer. Like I said, it's hard to keep up with Big Ten teams when there's so many SEC teams now to try to keep up with.
I know.
But they're going to be a well-coached team under Luke Fickell. They're going to play hard. They're going to play well. So you better show up is what this game is all about.
Right.
Then you get a bye week, Jake. You get to travel to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. And you mentioned them a little bit in the opening about how this is kind of the game that sticks out to you. And for obvious reason, it's Kirby Smart. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. But is it just me, or from a national perception, are people kind of sleeping on Georgia a little bit this year?
Yeah, I think they are. I've heard a lot of rumblings about them possibly losing 3 games this year, which it very well could, because like you mentioned, the SEC is loaded right now with so many teams, so many good teams, and really there's not a week that, like we said earlier, that you can't just sleepwalk through. So Georgia bringing in a new quarterback. They have some pieces, like I said, offensively. Defense, they should be better than they were last year. But I mean, anybody can get up in any given week and beat them. So they're going to stay on their toes.
Yeah, Georgia is an interesting team. Maybe one of the most interesting teams in the SEC this year, because we haven't seen Georgia. Doubted is not the right word.
Right.
But they are being a little slept on, I believe, going into this season. And that's a new feeling, a new vibe for the Georgia Bulldogs. How does Kirby Smart and his players handle that? I think they're going to handle it with an edge.
I do too.
So Alabama better show up this week. When they travel to Athens and play them, they better show up, because Georgia is more than capable of putting it on them. Now, I'll say this. I think their receiver room is better than it's been being this year. They brought in Zachariah Branch from USC, or Zachariah Branch from USC. And I think they signed his brother, who was a high school prospect this last year as well. So they have some talented wide receivers. The freshman running back from last year, what was his name? That was really good.
Yeah, I can't think about.
He played at Modern Day High School. I remember that.
I know.
I can't think of his name, but that dude's a stud.
Yep.
As long as their quarterback doesn't turn the ball over, it's very similar to what Alabama has with Ty Simpson. Take care of the football. That's what killed Alabama last year, was the turnovers.
Right.
From the quarterback position. When you throw a bunch of interceptions, when you fumble the football, you just put yourself in bad situations, especially when you're playing solid on defense. And Georgia's going to be solid on defense. I know they're not quite what they were in the early Kirby days, or what Kirby's defenses look like at Alabama, but it's a totally different game now.
It is.
I'm confident that Kirby is going to have this Georgia team play good football, and that game right there is a toss-up. And the truth is, Georgia should probably win it if they're the home team, but you just never know. It just feels like Alabama has Georgia's number for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I think they've won 9 out of 10 matchups against them, and I think is Kirby 1-5 or 1-6 against Alabama. So
something like that. Yeah.
It just, for whatever reason, Alabama has Georgia's number. But I'll say this: the people that are kind of sleeping on Georgia going into this season, I would tread lightly.
Yeah.
Kirby's won 2 national championships for a reason, and it's almost like the feeling that people had with Dabo Swinney as well. He won a couple championships early on. Then everybody's kind of pushed him aside, but he took his team to the playoff last year.
Yeah,
they're going to be one of the most highly ranked teams going into this season as well. The dude knows how to coach, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Don't sleep on Georgia. Kirby Smart knows what he's doing. They got a lot of talent, and if they put the pieces together, they're going to be one of the elite teams in college football. So that matchup there in Athens in week 5, following the bye week, is going to be a massive game for both Alabama and Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
Then we get to the month of October, Jake, and Alabama has their chance at revenge.
Yep. Big old circle.
Now, I've never had to say this. Alabama has a chance for revenge against the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Gosh, so
It still
crazy to
doesn't
say
seem
that.
real that they lost that game.
I know. That was such a weird game.
I don't even know what to say about it. I mean, it's just, after all this time, that is one of the most. I felt so strange watching that game.
I know. Yep.
It was like the ULM game in 2007, Nick Saban's first year. Like,
yeah.
Am I really? Is this real?
It's like I'm in a fog.
Yes.
Watching. It's crazy.
Yes. And because you can't, I don't know about you, because in the back of my mind, I kept saying, Alabama's going to put together and come back and win.
Yep.
And every time they got close, Vanderbilt will make a play.
I know.
Jalen Milroe fumbled the ball on a backside pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just one of those weird days. But Alabama has their chance of revenge against Vanderbilt. Now, look, there's been some trash talking between Ryan Williams and Diego Pavia this week. But the truth is, Jake, look, despite what happened last year, Alabama's clearly a better team with a better roster, with a better coaching staff, and Alabama should win the game. Does that mean they will beat them by 50? No. But Alabama should win this game, Jake, and they should have won last year.
Yeah. I'll say this about, I guess, and we talked about not sleepwalking through your games. That's kind of what happened here. We didn't really get up for our opponent, and we talk about that a lot. But Vandy with Diego Pavia does bring something unique offensively that a lot of teams don't see. So that was our really first action against him, and to see that, and we was just, I guess just a word to say is bumfuzzled at what we could do. But I feel like, this all season and even since then, this coaching staff has learned those tendencies and learned what they've done. That little shuffle pass on the backside, I don't think that's going to happen much in this year's game for sure. That's not going to be there this go around.
My gosh, I hope I never see that play again.
I know it could not.
South Carolina tried to run it against us. I think Oklahoma did.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if Coach Womack and that defensive staff have kind of put an end to that type of play.
I hope so. But
Alabama's got a chance to get their revenge, and
I think they do.
Yeah, I think they do too. I think they take care of business at home against Vanderbilt on October 4th. Then you get to a game you mentioned, Jake, kind of as a trap game, because you have your revenge game against Vanderbilt on October 4th. You play Missouri in Columbia. Then you have your revenge game against Tennessee the next week. So it's kind of that trap game. It's the perfect trap game. You're playing a team that's, they do have some question marks going this season. They lost Luther Burton. They lost Brady Cook.
Yeah.
They lost their best offensive lineman. I think their best defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. So they're losing a lot of key pieces, but they still have some good players and they have a good coaching staff. So this is one of those trap games that if you don't show up ready to play, it's almost like that Vanderbilt game last year. Yeah. Where you just beat Georgia, you're riding that high, you go to Nashville and you're not ready to play. Mm-hmm. So now this year, you got Vandy, you get your revenge, or you're going to be high off that revenge game, looking forward to Tennessee instead of getting ready for Missouri, who's more than capable of beating you. So, that's a very interesting matchup there on October 11th in Columbia.
Yeah, absolutely, Stacey. This game, I just got to say, Eli Drinkwitz, a lot of people give him, saying that he's hasn't really been that good, but I think he's been solid at Missouri, what he has done. And this is his chance to, prove to the world that he is, a very good coach, which I already think he is. But without his star players, like he lost, what's his team going to be like this year? How's he going to mold this new team to fit his system and fit his style of play? So, I think Missouri is going to be good, but they're not going to be as talented as they were last year. So, I think if Alabama plays their game, they should be able to handle things in Columbia and get back home and get ready for that Tennessee matchup.
Yeah, you talk about Eli Drinkwitz. After going, I think 5 a 5-win season, then back-to-back 6-win seasons. Now, the last 2 years, um, Missouri has won 10+ games. So I
Yep.
think they are in the right direction. I do have a little bit of concern with all the pieces they lost from this last
Yeah,
year. But
me too.
so we'll kind of see what Coach Drinkwitz is made of. I think this year, I think this is going to be his 5th season
Fifth
there
or
in
sixth, yeah.
Missouri. So we'll see what he can do there in Columbia. Like you mentioned, the next week, Jake, it's the third Saturday in October against the Tennessee Volunteers, who perhaps had the biggest drama out of anybody this spring with
Yeah,
the Nico Iamaleava situation. First of all, we have not had a chance to talk about that.
that's
Real
crazy.
quickly, how wild was that?
Yeah, it's very wild. I just there's a rumblings that it started like during the season where he started wanting more money, but that's crazy. But my thoughts on that, Nico, he was good, but was he $8 million good and wanted more
Heck
money
no.
good? No. I
No.
mean, he was averaging maybe 200 passing yards a game with maybe a touchdown and a half on average. No, you don't. I don't think you're in the position to ask for more money at that point.
Well, I mean, I'll
Mhm.
say this, and this may be a hot take. It may not be. I don't know. But I wouldn't have traded Jalen Milroe for Nico Iamaleava.
No, I wouldn't either.
I mean,
No,
Nico was nothing special.
no,
Does he have the potential to be? Well,
he
yeah,
does.
a lot of these
Hmm.
guys do, but
Hmm.
he was nothing special last year, Jake. That defense is what carried that team. That pass rush they had, how physical
Hmm.
they were. They had a great running game, so that's what carried the team. But
Yeah,
Nico was very limited in what he could do passing the football. He was very inconsistent throwing the ball, especially downfield. And he could run, but was not a physical runner.
hmm,
Uh, at that lanky frame. But I'm with you. He was not worth the type of money that it's being said that he
right.
was, wanting. So kudos to Tennessee for saying,
Mm.
"No, we're good, man.
Yeah.
Hit the road."
What being said? Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think Josh Hop. Yeah, let's put
Yeah.
this up here so everybody can see it. It says, I
Hmm.
think Josh Hopple showed some stones to let the kid walk. Show kids no one is above the team. Absolutely, that's
I love
another.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
at what point is enough enough?
Right.
I mean, you're hurting the rest of the roster if you're expecting $8 million.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. This game, Stacy. I'm gonna go back since we're talking about last year's game a little bit. Honestly, Alabama should have took control of that game very early on,
Yes,
and
yes.
we had missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. We forced turnovers on their own side of the ball, on our own side of the ball, 3 times in the first half. That game should have been like 28 to probably 7 at halftime, at maybe 24-7, you know, and we should have that game wrapped up, but we could not capitalize. And you said that, Dylan Sampson is probably one of the best running backs in the conference last year. He's not there now. They lost several receivers. So this team is kind of going to be like a new look Tennessee team with a new quarterback and playmakers. So Alabama they still got to play really well because that defense is still going to be good. They're getting better every year on the hopper on defense. So they're probably going to be good again on defense. We just got to play within ourselves. And this game, if we would have done that last year, we would have won last year. I think we can do that here at home this year. No
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. I agree 100% with that entire spiel there.
Mhm.
Then you have to travel to Columbia, South
Oh,
Carolina, to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Now, I'll say this, Jake. From a skill position standpoint on offense, they're really good.
mhm,
Lenore Sellers is legit. They're going to be good at running back. They got really Nick Harbert receiver, along with some other talented players as well. But Jake, their offensive line is a
mhm.
concern.
Yeah,
They were already a little on the struggle bus last year along the offensive line. I think they lost like 3 or 4 of those guys.
right.
So the offensive line is going to be a work in progress for them. But when you have talent like Lenore Sellers, sometimes that can kind of cover those deficiencies up a little bit. So we'll see about them offensively. Defensively, they lost a lot. They lost, I think, their 2 best linebackers, their 2 best defensive linemen,
Mhm.
their best defensive backs. So they're kind of rebuilding that defense as well. So I get a lot of the hype around South Carolina going this year because of Lenore Sellers. and those skill players on offense. But what they lost on defense and what that offensive line looks like, I have some trepidation about how good this South Carolina team can be.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey. And again, I keep harping about last season, but I really don't feel like that South Carolina game last year should have been as close either. And just had some
That's the
bad
story of
defense.
Alabama's
But
season, Jake.
yeah, pretty much last year it was for
Not
sure.
doing what they should have done.
Right.
I mean, that you can sum it up.
Yeah, pretty much for sure. But Lenore Sellers, I know he's really good. He's probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference this year, and rightfully so. The only question mark I have about him is his passing. He still has issues, trying to get the ball downfield and kind of decision making. But his legs, we're going to have to watch his legs in this game for sure. So, but Alabama, I think they handled him pretty well last year. It's just some offensive, issues last year that kind of got them back in the game. But I think we're more solid this year defensively, and we're going to be okay in this game as well.
Yeah, you talk about we talked about how Alabama not doing what they should have done last year,
Yeah.
and the truth is, we can blame Miller all we want to, but the biggest problem that Alabama had last year, and it's something they've had for the last couple of years, really, is not being able to run the football consistently.
Right.
And when you can't run the football consistently, you don't put away teams that you should put away. You can't maintain ball control to squeeze out those close victories. And it just puts so much pressure on the rest of your offense, on your offensive line, on your quarterbacks, on your receivers to get open. And it just makes everything tough and doesn't work if you can't run the football. It's that simple, Jake. And if Alabama can be more consistent on the ground game, getting that push, making plays, then everything else is going to fall into place. And you'll see this team play at a higher level, more on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, I agree, Stacey, and especially talking about closing teams out. Now with the new rule of the stock, the clock does not stop until 2 minutes of either start halftime or the end of the game. If you run the ball, you can run 8-9 minutes of a fourth quarter out if you have a consistent running game. So that's the biggest thing I think is a challenge for Alabama this coming season is to get a consistent running game, like you said.
Yeah, I think getting back to South Carolina, I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think if Alabama shows up ready to play and play some good football, they should be able to come away with a win. Then they get their second bye week of the season, Jake, that first weekend of November, and then they take on LSU in Tuscaloosa on November 8th. Great matchup. Alabama went down to Baton Rouge and just skull dragged them last year. No Jalen Milroe, which appeared to be LSU's kryptonite for the last couple of years because he ran all over them. I think he's still running against them.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this LSU team? They're receiving some hype, Jake. They had a really good offseason in terms of the transfer portal. They always recruit the high school ranks really well. They bring Garrett Nussmeier back. What's your thoughts on this LSU team going into this year?
I think it all hinges on how Garrett Nussmeier, plays. He's really good. He made a lot of errors last year, like boneheaded plays and miscues. Had some fumbles and things that wasn't needed in big situations. So it all depends on how he plays. Now they're going to be solid on the offensive line, running back position, and really their defense after they got rid of who was it, Matt House a few years ago when their defense just awful. They got a new, I forgot who the guy is now, but their defense is getting a little bit better. One thing I'll say about the defense, and for this LSU team to make that next step,
Blake Baker, by the way.
Blake Baker, yeah. Harold Perkins has got to step up. I mean, he's not shown up since his freshman year, and they need him to be the guy he's coming into the program to be that guy who can get to the quarterback, make plays, and he just hadn't been there the last couple of years for him.
His career is very similar to Deontay Lawson's for Alabama.
Yeah.
So talented. When he's healthy, he's good, but he just stays nicked up or injured all the dang time.
Yeah.
And hopefully for both guys, they can stay healthy and have good senior years because they're too good of players not to be healthy and be on the football field. So, yeah, I agree. Harold Perkins, it's time for him to kind of show up and prove what type of talent he has. and same can be said for Deontay Lawson as
Right.
well. But yeah, this LSU matchup is going to be a lot of fun. I agree with you on Garrett Nussmeier. He's one of those guys who, man, when he's on, he is good. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah.
is really good. But he does has some tendency to turn the football over, make some bad decisions. If he can kind of
Mhm.
correct those things,
Oh
and a
yeah.
lot of times that does get better with experience. He's now a really experienced football player with a lot of starts under his belt. So I expect him to have a big season. But it's going to be hard for LSU to come into Bryant Denny Stadium and come out with a victory. But looking forward to that game. It's one of the most fun games Alabama has each and every season. So
Yep.
it's not going to be any different here in 2025.
Hmm.
Then we get to the game, Jake, that I'll be honest with you, it might be the game I'm most excited about this year.
Hmm.
For a couple of reasons. Obviously, you have the revenge factor here against Oklahoma on November 15th in Tuscaloosa. Everybody's going to be talking about what happened last year, Oklahoma knocking Alabama out of the college football playoff, so to speak. Um, but Jake, they bring in John Mateer at quarterback. They
Yeah.
bring in Jordan Ott at running back. They're going to be healthy, hopefully, at wide receiver after
Oh
losing about every scholarship guy they had last year to
yeah.
injury. There should be better along the offensive line. Under Brent Venables, that defense is going to be really good. So Oklahoma could be one of the sneaky good teams here in 2025. So I'm looking forward to that matchup on November 15th.
Yeah. I am too, Stacey. And I heard that Brent Venables is actually going to be calling the defense this year. So
Okay.
that's good. That's huge for them because he's a great defensive mind. And I will say, you talked about Dabo earlier. Dabo really hasn't been the same since he left. Defensively, that is, Dabo's still a great coach. But going to this game here, like you said, they retooled offensively. They brought in the offense coordinator.
From
Middle of the
Washington
season
State.
last year. Yeah. And I think they're going to be a lot better under John Mateer and Johnny Ott. Those guys are really good dudes. Their biggest question mark, like you mentioned, is the offensive line, but I feel like
Yeah.
they're going to be a little bit better this year. And my gosh, last year they would have pulled me and you out there to catch footballs for them. So I don't think they're going to have that problem this year. This could be another interesting game. And like you said, I really feel like, depending on how those two guys, Mateer and Ott, gel with this offense, this could be a 9-win team, or it could be another 6-6 team.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. This is they're one of the more interesting teams. Them
Mhm.
and Georgia might be the two most interesting teams going into this year
Yeah.
outside of Alabama. I'm not counting Alabama because they're always interesting, um,
Right.
really intriguing team.
Hmm.
No sense in really spending any time on Eastern Illinois, Jake. I could not tell you one thing about them. Don't know what their mascot is. Don't know anything about
I
them.
don't either.
Alabama should handle business. I think I could start at quarterback, and Alabama would be able to beat Eastern Illinois.
Right.
Then you have to take on the Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare Stadium on
Mm.
November 29th, at the Indian Burial Ground
Yeah, pretty much.
where Jordan-Hare is at. But, well, just your thoughts on Auburn this year, Jake. What are you expecting? Hugh Freeze has not had a great couple first years in on the Plains. What are you expecting here in year 3?
I expect they need to get a lot better to keep his job. I think, if I'm not saying he's going to lose if he only wins like 6 games this year. He's going to be on a definite hot seat though. But he needs like a 7-8 win season this year. My biggest issue, and yes, I know Jackson Arnold was a quarterback for Oklahoma last year that beat Alabama, but he threw 68 total passing yards against Alabama in that game. The running back and him had over 100 yards. That was the weak point, for Alabama against Oklahoma last year. It wasn't Jackson Arnold's arm. That's his biggest issue, and that's my biggest issue moving for Auburn this year. Is they're hyping him up, but he lost his job in the middle of the season last year. They brought the backup in and realized, well, he's not no good either, so let's just put Jackson Arnold back in. So I think they're hinging, and I mean, I understand, if I was an Auburn fan, I'd have to hinge on something too, but I just don't think Jackson Arnold's going to be that guy that's going to get you 8 wins this year. It's going to be a struggle, I do believe.
Yeah, Jay, I don't know what to make about this Auburn team. I don't know what to make of Hugh Freeze, if I'm being
Hmm.
honest, Jake. Look, I just want to, and this could come back to bite me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Hugh Freeze is not a good coach, but I'm beginning to wonder if Hugh Freeze is not a touch overrated.
Yeah. Hmm.
Look, his last year at Ole Miss, Jake, he went 5-7 and 2-6 in SEC play.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so he goes to Liberty. He goes 8-5 his first year. He has Malik Willis in 2020, and they go 10-1.
Mhm.
But Jake, his last 2 years at Liberty, 8-5, 8-4.
Yeah.
Then
Mm.
first year at Auburn, 6-7. Second year in Auburn, 5-7.
Yeah.
Now I know their roster is not where it needs to be. It's getting there. It's a lot better than it was when he got there. Brian
Right.
Harsin did no good things for that roster.
No.
But I just get the feeling that Hugh Freeze is a little bit overrated as a head coach. Is he a good recruiter? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But when it comes to Saturday afternoons and you're lining up between the hashes, I think he's a little bit overrated, Jake. I think
Yeah.
those 2 wins that he had over Alabama when he was at Ole Miss has got him to where he's at. And
Right.
look, this could all come back to bite me. They could go undefeated, win the national championship this year, whatever. But I'm just going based off facts of the last 4 or 5 years of his head coaching career.
Right.
So I don't know. I just think he's a little bit overrated. He's, I don't want to get personal, but he seems a bit of a snake oil salesman, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, he could be a great guy. I don't know it, but I just wanted to get that out there that Hugh Freeze might just be a touch overrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, and like you mentioned, he's got to have his quarterback to have a successful season, like he had with Malik Willis at Liberty. He don't have that with Jackson Arnold. I'm just being honest about it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Hugh Freeze is getting by on a name and mediocre success. He's a
Hmm.
one-hit wonder at every stop. He's not a yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with him.
Hmm.
I just keep hearing all these great things about Hugh Freeze. And look, now he is a great recruiter. There's no doubting that. He's one of the best recruiting head coaches in the country.
Yeah.
But I don't trust him to get it done, Jake. And like
Hmm.
you mentioned, unless he's got a Chad Kelly, a Malik
Hmm.
Willis, or a Bo
Hmm.
Wallace,
Yeah.
he's not going to do great.
Right. Mhm.
So I don't know. I just that don't really have anything to do with what the matchup means this year, Jake. But I just feel like I'm with you. I'm not sure Jackson Arnold's the guy. He may prove to be the guy, and that
Right.
changes everything. But I'm not sold on Jackson Arnold yet.
No, me either.
So we'll see. But I don't know. Hugh Freeze is just not what I think most of the national media make him out to be, and so therefore I don't think Auburn's. If you had to guess a record for Auburn here in 2025, what would it be, Jake? Right now, just first thing that comes to your head.
6-6.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, and I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but I think the start of it is pretty tough.
Oh yeah, they go to Baylor the very first week.
So yeah, so I mean, if they don't start great, Jake, it could be a
Mm.
long season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're at Baylor, then they have Ball State and South Alabama at home, but then 3 weeks in a row, Jake,
Mhm.
at Oklahoma, at A&M, and home for Georgia.
You're
You're
looking
look
at 0-3
you're
losses there
you're looking at a
potentially.
team that could be let's just say they beat Baylor. Even if they beat Baylor, Jake, they're starting 3-3, and they
Right.
still have, Alabama and Arkansas and Missouri on the schedule, Jake. But let's say they lose to Baylor, Jake, you're looking at a team that starts 2-4.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. They got that. They better start hot.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't start 4-2, I'm not sure they reach 6 wins.
I know. You're right. It's gonna be tough.
I think they have to win 2 out of 3 of that 3-game stretch of Georgia A&M and
Mhm.
who's the other one? Oklahoma. I think they have to
Oklahoma.
win
Yeah.
2 of those 3, or they don't have a winning record this year.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're not here to talk about Auburn's schedule. I just thought it was interesting because, man, he seems like a 6-6 coach on an average year, and that's what he's been at Auburn. I feel like that's what's coming again this year.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, he's a great recruiter. I would have him like my recruiting coordinator, but I wouldn't have him on the field as a head coach.
He would. Hey, he could probably do good in a Courtney Morgan type role as a general manager.
Right. Absolutely.
But anyway, so this game in general, Jake, just real quick, what do you think? How do you think this game kind of plays out? What are you seeing from Alabama and Auburn in this matchup this year?
I think again, you talked about the talent, discrepancies. Alabama is a more talented team. Auburn is getting there. like we stated, Hugh's a great recruiter. He's getting some guys there, but QB play in this game is going to be huge. I just don't see how Jackson Arnold outplays Ty Simpson. And honestly, by this point, I really think Ty Simpson is going to be well established, and he's going to. By this time, people is going to be thinking, "Wow, this dude is the real deal." And I think it's going to be a good game, but I just think Alabama is far a superior team. They're going to win this game.
I agree 100%. I think that's a great way to look at it. The talent alone, I think, is a little bit too much for Auburn. And we'll talk about this more as the off season continues, because I really want to get in on this Alabama defense, because I really
Yeah,
think this defense could be special
I
in
do too.
2025. And so we'll have an episode dedicated to just the defense here coming soon. We'll obviously have one for the offense as well. And something that's always worked great on our channel is kind of breaking down each position group and
Mhm.
kind of looking at the depth chart and what our expectations are for that specific group. And we'll do that as well this summer, Jake. But before we wrap it up, and we want to hear from you guys in the live chat. We want to hear from you guys in the comment section who's watching the recorded version of this. What do you say Alabama's record is going to be in 2025?
If everything plays out the way it should, talent takes over, skill positions are playing at an elite level like they should. Todd Simpson becomes the guy who I really think he can be. At minimum, I see one loss with this team, honestly. And I mean, that could be the Georgia game, honestly. I really think, but on the flip side, I really think this Alabama team can go to Athens and beat Georgia as well, because they've done it before. Like you said, something with Kirby and Alabama. We thought it might have been an Nick Saban thing, but it's an Alabama thing with Kirby. He's got the mental block. He just wants to beat Alabama so bad that he gets in his head and just falls apart for him. But and I know going in the SEC is going to be hard to go undefeated. So that's why I'm saying probably a one loss. At the very most, two losses. But I really don't know who that second loss would be, unless maybe, like you said, Oklahoma could sneak up and have a better year than what we anticipated. Other than that, Alabama, I think, is going to be 11-1, 10-2 at the end of the year.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go 10-2. I think that's
Mhm.
just kind of the cheapskate way of looking at it. But I would
Mhm.
11-1 would not surprise me either. And the truth is, the- I think it would look different. But even a 9-3 season is not out of the realm of possibility, because I mean, you are playing Georgia, you're
Yeah.
playing Oklahoma, you're playing
Mhm.
LSU, you're playing
Yeah.
Tennessee. You have to go to Auburn. So there's some really difficult matchups on the schedule, and it's hard to win every one of them. I
It
mean,
is.
let's just tell the truth. It's not, 2010 anymore, 2011.
Right.
So I'm going to say 10-2, 11-1 is the most likely scenario. I do think they reach the college football playoff. I'm assuming you think that as well,
Yeah.
Jake.
Mhm.
And if do you like their odds of competing for a national championship if they do reach the college football playoff?
I do. Like you said, we're gonna break down each position and break down offense, defense. But honestly, just my overall thoughts defensively, this is probably one of the best defenses Alabama's had. Since Saban left. I think the 2016 defense was elite. I think 2020 was very special as well. Probably since the 2020, I think this is probably the best defense we've fielded coming back with the skill players that we have.
Well, last year was actually the fewest points per game Alabama had allowed since 2017
Right.
on defensively.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
last year's defense was really good, and basically everybody but Jahad Campbell's back. I mean, and
Yeah.
Malachi Moore. I mean,
Yeah.
the depth on that defense is insane, and I cannot wait
Mhm.
to dive into that side of the football here soon with
Mhm.
you, and we'll be sure to let everybody know about all that. Jake, is there anything else you want to add about this 2025 schedule before we wrap the show up?
No, I think we hit it pretty well. I'm excited to get the season here. Talking about it is getting me more hyped,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
and I'm just ready, because I'm ready to see Ty be the guy who I think he can be. And I know a lot of people is kind of low on him. Understandably so, with Keelan Russell on campus as well. But Ty's waited his turn. Keelan Russell can wait his turn because I think Ty's going to take over in fall camp, and this is going to be his team, and he's going to lead the charge this year for us.
Yeah, and by the way, thoughts and prayers with the Russell
Yes.
family as Keelan lost his twin sister this week, who
Mhm.
was set to join him in Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama.
It's
Thoughts and
terrible.
prayers for that family. Just a very sad situation.
Yep.
So just want to send a prayer to the Russell family. Jake, anything else you want to add or before we wrap it up? You good?
Yeah, I just want to make the comment real quick. I'm sure you saw Cole Kublett's little wide receiver, breakdown. He said that Auburn had the best, but I got to look, and Ryan Williams had better stats than both Eric Singleton and Cole Coleman by himself.
Yeah.
And then we still got Isaiah Horton and the Jeremy Bernard on side as well. So it's
Here's
crazy.
the thing, and I could have this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw where if you look at Alabama's wide receivers 1 through 3, which are Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton, and then Auburn's 1 through 3, which is Cam Coleman, Singletary, and the what's the other kid's name? Malcolm Simmons.
I think. Yeah.
Ryan Williams had more yards than Cam Coleman. Jeremy Bernard had more yards than Singletary. Singleton. And Zay Horton had more yards last year at Miami than what Simmons did for all. Yeah. So I mean, I don't. And then you think about the depth Alabama has behind those guys.
There's 8 guys behind there. Yeah,
Jalen Hill, who I'm serious, Jake. He would have been wide receiver 2 last year if he'd have been healthy.
Yeah, he would have. Yep.
Now, is he going to be that same dude this year after the injury? I don't know, but he's still there. Lotzier Brooks, Derek Meadows, Cole Adams, who was having a really good year until he got hurt. I don't know. And I'll say this. I have a lot of respect for Cole Kublik. He is really good at his job. But this off season, more than any other, he's been a little homerish.
Big time.
And that's a little surprising from him. And I could be reading it wrong. I don't know. I don't know Cole. But I'll say this. He seems a little more homerish this year than what he normally is.
Yeah, I agree.
He's usually cut and dry. He just calls it like he sees it.
Right.
But, and I'm not saying maybe he does truly think that Auburn's receiver room is better. But, I mean, Cam Calhoun is not better than Ryan Williams.
No.
Now, you could make the argument that Singleton is more dynamic than Jeremy Bernard.
Right.
But he's not more dynamic than Ryan Williams.
No.
And Jeremy Bernard has been a very consistent producer.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zay Horton, I don't know. That just seems a little odd to me. I think to me it's Alabama and Ohio State. I know he was talking to the SEC, but to me, Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 best receiver rooms. Now Auburn's got a top 5 receiver unit in the country.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yeah,
but in the SEC, in the SEC, Alabama to me is cut and dry.
Yeah,
has the best receiver room in the country or in the SEC.
Right. And I really think that Ryan Williams, when it's time for him to go to the draft, and Coleman, both of them is going to be probably first-round picks. But I really think that Ryan Williams will be picked above, maybe just a pick before. But I really think Williams will be the first one off the board. But they're both dynamic players, no doubt.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I'm not even taking anything away from Auburn's dudes because they're great. Them 3 players are really, really stinking good.
Singleton had a great year at Georgia State last year.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard proved in the SEC last year.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I don't know. Only time will tell. But I think it was a little homerish on Cole Kublik's part to because you can't tell me what Auburn has, especially the top 3. Is better than what Alabama has.
I think Jeremy Bernard had over 100 yards himself against Auburn in that game.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know. It's just and think of the yards they would have put up with a more traditional style quarterback.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, seriously.
And Ty fits that bill.
I guess you could say the same for Auburn last year because they had plenty of struggles at quarterback as well. But I don't know. I just feel like that it's without a shadow of a doubt, Alabama's wide receiver room is better than Auburn's. Now, look, Auburn's is clearly the second best.
Yeah, I agree.
But, I mean, I'm not trade. There's only one guy that I wouldn't even trade him, but I would even have to think about is Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, that
That
dude.
dude is ridiculous. He's
He is.
Julio. He is Julio Jones, Jake.
He is. He
He's
really
Julio
is.
Jones.
Yep.
I never thought there'd be another Julio Jones, but he is Julio Jones.
He is.
From
And that's crazy.
size, speed, the catch radius, the ability to win the 50-50 balls, make the immaculate catches where you just contort your body, and it's just insane. I mean, he is not human.
He ain't. And it's crazy.
But anyways, that's going to wrap up our show for the day, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the live episode. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the comments if you're watching the recorded version. Give us your thoughts on today's show. Let us know if you think Alabama's going to, win the SEC, what their record's going to be, if they're going to reach the college football playoff. We would love to interact with you there in the comment section as well. Thank you to Trina, Ben, all the guys and ladies who participated in the live chat. We appreciate you so much. But that's going to wrap it up, guys. We'll be back real soon for another episode. Like we mentioned, we're going to be talking some. Ben's bringing up the Braves, Jake. We've already been texting about that this morning.
Yeah, send me a message, Ben. We'll talk about them. I'm done with them. That's another episode for another day when we're just bored.
That would be sad. I don't even know what to say about them.
I know. Ugh. Anyway.
All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching it. Remember, we are powered by Believe Network, which means we are free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, just wherever you find your podcasts. And we would appreciate a subscription there as well. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.